Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. I've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. Joined tonight by Burke from the Often Daunted podcast, talking about the week of Big Ten basketball. We're also going to recap this Iowa State game that's going on right now as the final seconds kind of tick off here. We decided to just go ahead and go live now because it's just a free throw fest at this point. So, Burke, tell me, how do you feel about the free throw fest? You a fan of the free throws at the end of the game? Do you want to see something done to get rid of it? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's part of the game. It is the game. If you change that, you have to go back and every record gets an asterisk. Every game everybody's ever played gets an asterisk. I think that's a dangerous precedent to set. But hey, on to start the show, I wanted to come on here mostly to just say I heard a heartbreaking rumor involving someone close to Kurt and Dan Lanning, and I just really wanted to talk to someone close to him in his immediate circle and just make sure he's doing okay.
What's the rumor you heard?
Dan Lanning and Kurt. I heard that. I mean, on the Big Ten Huddle comment
Oh,
section, rumors are
yeah,
flying.
you got to be careful in the comment section. That's where it really gets going. Speaking of rumors, we got John here. He's talking about a rumor and football side of things. Quinn Ewers possibly coming back to school and maybe going to the Big Ten on top of that. Interesting. Yeah, there's been some Ohio State fans talking about bringing him back to Ohio State. I think I'll say no, and we'll leave it at that. Probably for since it's a basketball show, we'll leave it at that. Fisherman's here. Appreciate you being here. He said Iowa choked late, just like the football team. Yeah, part of it's Iowa choking, and part of it was Iowa State was just hitting their shots. Right? I mean, they were getting down low, and they that three that Lipsy hit, that was a big three
Oh,
there at the end.
ended it.
So yeah, but I mean, what I'll bring the graphic up here in just a second once the game's over, Burke. But I mean, overall, your thoughts on this game? First half, Iowa was shooting lights out. They were doing really well, and then in the second half, it just really looked like it really looked like Iowa State was just going crazy, getting offensive rebounds in this one. They had 18 offensive rebounds to Iowa's 8 in the entire game. They really didn't have any other option, or they didn't really have any answer for what Iowa State was doing with how tired Owen Freeman was.
Yeah, straight up. I mean, he looks like the most exhausted man in the Big Ten. We talked about it before we hopped on. He hasn't played the most minutes in the Big Ten, but man, what they're asking him to do, he has to do everything for that Iowa front court. And I mean, you saw the rebounds; they just plastered it everywhere towards the end of that game. The offensive rebounds that Iowa State was just munching compared to Iowa and Owen Freeman. Man, they're asking a lot. With what they have asked him, he has done a tremendous job of giving him everything he's got. Like the motor on that kid is ridiculous, but I mean, he can only do so much to hold down a front court against a top team in the country.
Yeah, Owen Freeman's going to end this game most likely with 16 points, but only 5 rebounds in the game. So, I mean, he's going to give you the offense, but really, when you look at it, your top rebounder in this game was the backup point guard, Drew Thelwell, which he's what? I don't even know, 6'1", 6'2", or something like that. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. You need somebody to get more rebounds. The Jefferson guy for Iowa State, he just was really taking care of him, did kind of whatever he wanted to do. He had, let's see how many offensive rebounds. He had 5 offensive rebounds in this game, and then everybody else, it was like, you get an offensive rebound, you get an offensive rebound, and Iowa just didn't have an answer for it. I don't think it's going to fly very well for Iowa if you can't bring down the defensive rebounds in the Big Ten this year.
Oh, no way, no way. And just the narrative of that game, you saw just like once Iowa tied it up, you saw that it started with Iowa State missing those threes. Iowa State missing those threes. Iowa got out to that big lead. Once they started hitting those, once you saw the game get tied, like the fans saw the writing on the wall themselves. It seemed like once, like you said, he hit that big three. At that point, with a minute 30 left, it seemed like all the momentum was in their hands. It was a wrap.
Yeah, totally. And Phillips right. He says Iowa they're getting out rebounded by double digits every game. It's true. It's true. I mean, you have to figure out something there if you're Fran McCaffrey, especially with how fast you're going and what kind of pace they play with. So, yeah. And Philip was saying here, 17 offensive rebounds tonight. I think they added one more because I just looked in the box score, set 18. So, yeah,
Jeez.
just crazy. Um, Talk about some of the players for Iowa in this one, Burke. Obviously, Owen Freeman comes up big with a lot of points, not necessarily the rebounding. Brock Harding, I was impressed with. That guy's a really good passer. I think that he doesn't get enough credit for how good of a passer he is in the Big Ten, but overall, he's just kind of small and just kind of gets pushed around out there. When you get a team that's willing to play physical basketball against him, I just don't think he can handle it as much as some others can. But like I said, he's a really good passer. I'm not trying to dog the guy, but I think Iowa State in this one, once Iowa stopped hitting their threes, they just kind of had their way with them and took care of business.
Yeah, that Thilwell backup point guard for them, that kid's energy is great. What he's bringing off the bench, it's awesome. It's awesome. But as far as the team goes overall, whenever I look at an Iowa team, whenever I see those uniforms, like the names on the back of them don't really matter to me. Like it just seems like the same product every time. And I mean, for better or worse, it's been a winning product in some cases. But this just, yeah, I don't know what needs to be done to fix it. I don't know what needs to be done to address that rebounding. Maybe they are so quick because they get guys out of the paint and on the run. Maybe it takes a conscious effort from Fran slowing down his team in order to address the rebounds at all.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do something. You have to do something in these games to try and address rebounding issues. I mean, when you had Luka Garza, that was really kind of the difference you had between some other Iowa teams and the other Iowa teams that we've seen. Because you're right, a lot of Iowa teams look the same way, no matter who's playing for who. No matter what names
Murray on. Let's go Murray on. Yeah.
Pretty much. But Luka Garza, I mean, he was the one that kind of had that rebounding ability that added to the team. But overall, you don't have it with this team, and it's difficult. So, all right. Any other thoughts on Iowa before we end there?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, move on. All right, Burke, weekly scores. This will be the fun discussion here. I'm going to put in the score there for Iowa State here in just a second. But you tell me, Burke, what's a game where you maybe had a takeaway or something that you learned about a team? Which game you want to bring up first? I know IU probably their first conference game there, one you could bring up for sure. But what game did you learn the most from this week?
What I learned the most? I mean, I learned the most from IU just because that's the one I'm most tapped into. So let's start with that one. I do want to start with that game. I mean, from the top, Indiana wins that 82-67. Indiana let's start with Battle for Atlantis. Everybody who's listening to this who isn't an Indiana fan, they just have the Battle for Atlantis in their mind. And guess what? The Battle for Atlantis was a business trip in which our CEO had all of our representatives vastly underprepared. Like these guys, us as fans get to call these business trips now more than ever because these guys are actual employees sent on these business trips. And Indiana had an awesome trip to the Bahamas, I'd imagine, because they just were on vacation. Like they really were. You can't say that they weren't against Providence because guess what? Providence probably stinks. It was from top to bottom, just a failure of energy. Whatever they brought, everybody was just out to lunch. And it was a problem of that is what Indiana has been at neutral site games. Indiana has been out to lunch. Like Ohio State has Auburn this weekend at that Hoopsgiving. Last Hoopsgiving, Indiana shows up in Atlanta, gets run out by Auburn by 30 points. Like Indiana at these neutral things have just been a problem. With all that being said, I am going to say this Indiana roster has enough talent to win more games than it loses. Like in the way that college basketball is right now with as much parity, it is if you're hitting your shots, you're going to win the game. It seems like from KenPom 1 through KenPom 80, whatever team is making their shots that night is going to win the game. So I just have to say I respect the way Indiana bounced back in this one because I don't think the fan base we weren't out as much as we have been for Big Ten openers. There hasn't been the fervor, largely because football's giving us a nice distraction for once. But the way that they were able to come back, settle down, and just handle business, beat the computers, beat the spread that was projected, I loved it. I loved it. Indiana's front court is always going to show up. Miles Rice, yes, he had a rough game. He's had a stretch of rough games. But what Indiana has done that they haven't in previous seasons, and that is a sign of Mike Woodson growing in my head, we went out and we got the guard depth. But what Mike did in this game that I haven't seen before, John, he absolutely needs to be better, 100%. He is the key to the ceiling. If we get reliable star production from him, Indiana's ceiling is, it's just so much better off. We need him reliably. But what Mike Woodson and staff did was go out to get the talent that even when he is off, we can go to other options. We never had that. Guess what? If the backcourt wasn't performing, that was it last season. That, like, okay, hope Kalel scores 36. But now, like, Mike Woodson, and I say that he, like, is really utilizing it because he did only give Miles Rice 21 minutes in that game. He saw Miles go 1 for 4, saw Miles struggling, turning the ball over, and he only gives him 21 minutes. When's the last time Mike Woodson has given his starting point guard, like, less than a lion's share of the time? And that is because he saw
Caden Carlisle.
Yeah,
like that's
exactly.
That was a good thing that he did it because Caden Carlisle was the only guard that decided to show up in that Minnesota game. Now, I will give Miles Rice some credit. He only had 2 points, but he did have 4 assists. He did show up with 5 rebounds. He only had 1 turnover in the game, so it's not like he was like a complete liability and totally inefficient for the team. But you're right. Like, no,
and while he only had 2 points, it seemed like he did consciously limit his shots. Like, it almost like was like he knew he was off, so he only took 4 shots in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Mike's willingness to go to Kanon is a learned behavior. That is something new to him. So that is what I took from this game. There were strides of Mike Woodson understanding what needs to be done with his rotations and what he needs to do on the fly to win games.
Yeah, I mean, and Philip's asking here, are you sure Indiana's that talented? It seems like Miles Rice got wildly overrated in the offseason. I mean,
if you watch pick out any 5 random Washington State games next year, watch him in a row, and then he's a good kid. He's a good player.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, you've seen Miles Rice play really well against really low competition. In the best Power 5 team that he played against, Power 4 team, I guess, that he played against was South Carolina. He played well in that one. But you brought up the battle for Atlantis. I mean, he did not play particularly well in that time, and then he comes back in Sam Houston and Miami of Ohio, and he has nearly 20-point games in both those. And then he comes back out against Minnesota, and he only has 2 points in that one. Like I said, he did do some other things, so it's not like he was a complete liability for the team. But still, like, you're gonna need to see this consistent play that you were expecting from Miles Rice against the bigger opponents. I think he has it in him because you're right. When you watched Washington State last year, he had the ability, he had the talent, and it wasn't just against lower competition. But Mike Woodson has to find a way because as much as it was good that Kaden Carlisle came out in this one and played well, like, Trey Galloway was nowhere to be seen. He had, I think, 1 point in that game.
Yeah.
And he had, I think, 4 turnovers. So when you have more turnovers than you score points in that game.
Yeah.
So,
that is a rampant problem right now. Indiana's turnovers are they're embarrassing, the turnovers that they're doing. The defense, 0 effort. So, like, when Penn State comes across our desk, like, that's going to be an issue because, like, it's just dribbling off your toes. It's just like mishandling. It's just tiny, minute miscues that are adding up and embarrassing us, man. We have the talent to be way higher regarded than we are. Now it's just time to win some Big Ten games and put it to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's something to be said about, like, your team, your best guard didn't play well, and you're still able to get the win. But let's be honest, like, Minnesota's not a good basketball team. But I mean, this Indiana team, they take so many, and John's bringing it up, they take so many long 2-point shots overall. And I mean, they're hitting 45% inside the 3, but outside the paint right now. And it's like, I don't know if you should be shooting that much. They took 11 in this game outside the paint, but inside the 3-point line. Like, I mean, I know.
Yeah,
I know there's like some
I don't
teams
want
that are
anybody
going all NBA, but like, and I'm not saying Indiana needs to go all NBA, but there are certain aspects of that like it's just not going to be consistent for you game in and game out. You're going to be too inconsistent with that.
No, there are 2 guys who should be taking that shot, and there are 2 guys on the team that are pretty much NBA guys. That being Mackenzie Mbako and Bryson Tucker. Those are the 2 guys who are allowed to take that shot. because for some reason Bryson Tucker is lights out from that range. Like even more so than I would say under the basket. His mid-range game is nuts. But that being said, like you hate watching him take it, but they go in. So I gotta forgive him for that. Yeah, Indiana's addicted to that shot. They're addicted to turning it over, but somehow they have enough talent on their roster that they still beat these teams. Like we are winning by good margins. We are beating the spreads that Vegas is giving us. Other than in Atlantis,
because you got a good front court. I mean, like
yeah, that front court is always going to show up.
And McKenzie and Bacco.
That three
and Bacco has been huge.
That three you need, but if you can have those three show up every game, and you can have Bryce or any two of Bryson Tucker, Luke Good, K9 Carlisle, and Trey Galloway show up, you will win more games than not.
Yeah, for sure. Here are the shot charts that you get from CBB Analytics. So obviously,
dang, that's some good shot charts. I should check that place out.
Yeah, you should. You should. Which, by the way, if you want to buy CBB Analytics, I'll have a code for you guys soon. So don't buy it yet. Wait until I have the code.
That's when I'll tee you up.
There you go. Yeah, help me out a little bit. But yeah, so I mean, Indiana in this one, like I said, 45% from outside the paint, but inside the 3-point line, and then 50% out here. So I mean, it's not been terrible shooting, but I mean, you're taking more mid-range shots than you are 3-point shots. Well, not overall because you had 6 and 8, so it's 14 to 11.
No, we are fixing it. That I will say, the 3-point shooting, the distribution of shots, where we are taking them from, like that chart is not excellent. That is not an excellent chart, but it is a lot better than it has been, and I'd like to see that progress.
I'm gonna check the South Carolina game really fast just to see the progress of them. Where's Indiana at? I know they're probably right there, and I'm just missing them. Here, I'll do it like this. All right, Indiana. If you go South Carolina, let me go to the shot chart here. Yeah, I mean they took 9 in this one, but they did. Looks like they went down around the basket more, and they shot some more 3-pointers. But yeah, I mean,
I mean in general, like over the course of the compared to last seasons and seasons prior under Woodson, right. We're working on it. We're working on it. But yeah, you can't really take too much from a Minnesota win because Minnesota is Dawson Garcia and just, I mean, who's who. So
you stop Dawson Garcia and you're going to win the game pretty much.
Yeah. So you can't really dictate too much on them. That being said, this Nebraska game is huge. This is a real make or break game for Mike Woodson, just based on how Nebraska went last year. It's time for him to show some things have changed. And this game is a great one heading into that one. I really appreciate the Hoosiers showing here for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure, and we'll talk about the previews and stuff, but they play Nebraska tomorrow night, and, Nebraska's a good team at home, so if they can steal that one, that's going to be a really good sign for Indiana, but they're going to have to not get rattled because the Nebraska fans are going to show up on a Friday night for that game.
Oh, they beat us by 30 last season. Like, I think that's what it was. They beat us by 30 in Nebraska last season. It was an embarrassment. It's time to show them that anything has changed because this is a gettable Nebraska team.
Don't worry, you didn't lose to them like Ohio State lost to Maryland, so it's not as embarrassing.
Dude, it's a make shots college basketball now. Every team's going to beat every team.
It's true. Let's talk Michigan, Arkansas. All right, so Michigan in this one was kind of crazy. So Arkansas gets to a little bit of lead in the first one, and then Michigan at the end of the first half, they have a good size lead, and then Arkansas starts getting back into it in the second half, and then toward the end of the second half, Michigan starts chipping away back at it more, but they can never actually get the lead, and they can never actually win it in this one. And I mean, it's it's every single game for Michigan. It's the turnovers. Like, you have got to do a better job taking care of the ball. And if they're not going to be able to take care of the ball, then they're not going to be able to win these games. I mean, you had Danny Wolf with 3 turnovers, Trey Donaldson 4, Roddy Gale 3, Namari Burnett 3. Like, At this point, I would say just run pick and roll with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden the entire time, but he's still turning the ball over. Like, it doesn't matter what you do with Danny Wolf, he's still turning the ball over. And when he gives it away to somebody else, they're turning the ball over. Like, I don't know what Dusty May needs to do, but he has got to fix his turnover issue because he has a talented team. He has a team that could compete for the Big Ten. But if you're going to turn the ball over this much, you're you're not going to be able to compete for the Big Ten, and you're not going to be able to win it. You're going to be a middle of the pack Big Ten team.
Yeah, this game was nuts. Like the haymakers thrown in this. Like, is this how Michigan's going to compete in the Big Ten? Like just haymaker run, haymaker run, haymaker run. It You were talking Danny Wolf, man. I came on this show before, like I think previewing just how everybody's season was going to go, and I thought, man, that's a big Ivy League dork. I'm not too afraid of him. Danny Wolf he's just skilled. He is a talent. He's good, but man, he needs to cut that down. He is part of the problem because for better or worse, they don't have the guards to move the ball through anything. Like he needs to be a focal point of the offense. It needs to run through him because they don't have the guards on the outside other than Trey Donaldson who really move the ball well enough. Yeah, and you saw that. You saw Michigan won the front court. You saw Arkansas won the back court in that game. Arkansas's guards are just so athletic. It's just trying to keep up with them is a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah.
the problem you have with this team right now is you don't have a primary ball handler that can take care of the ball well enough for the entire game. Trey Donaldson, really good shooter. Roddy Gale, really quick, really athletic guy. That I mean, not really. He's more athletic than most and can do some really nice things for you. But at the end of the day, like you don't have a consistent ball handler on this team that's going to calm the team down and handle the ball and get it in the right situations. You give the ball up to Donaldson, Gale, Wolf, and the turnovers are just gonna go crazy. So as far as I'm concerned, like until they figure out that issue, they really don't have a great situation here. So
hey, they don't have a great situation, but you know what? As far as turnarounds go, commend Michigan on how they've started. Like they've looked great compared to how teams usually turn around in the first year under a head coach.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was gonna look for the points off turnovers, but I can't find that for some. Oh, it's on my other sheet. Oh well, I won't worry about it. All right, Wisconsin and Illinois. What do you think of that one, Burke? I mean, Wisconsin 3 straight losses now. I said this on the Power Ranking show. Everybody was really excited for Wisconsin, and they said Wisconsin could do some really good things. And I'm like, okay, they could, but if they start falling off in conference play last year, or like they did last year, this year, and then lo and behold, they lose to Michigan, they lose to Marquette, which I mean. Marquette's a really good team, so I don't think that's like the worst loss in the world. And then you lose this one at Illinois. I mean, if you would have at least won one of these 3, you would have felt better about this team. But overall, it doesn't look like John Tonji is the miracle scorer like we thought he could be, and he's kind of coming back to earth a little bit. What do you think?
John Tonji, a free throw merchant against smaller guys.
Yeah,
maybe. No, he really put it on those smaller teams to start the year. Wisconsin looked great. They won that MTE. They beat that impressive Pitt team. But yeah, Illinois' talent, man. Illinois has talent, and if that talent clicks on the right night, if they have enough of the talent clicking on the right night, they can beat any team. They really can. But it was a letdown game for Wisconsin. They had a lot going into this, and just the way Trey White stepped up for Illinois, huge. Illinois' like formula for victory just feels like to me it's going to be Kasparis going off doing what he does because it does look like that's reliable now.
Yeah,
Kasparis, like Ivasic, and then just one of those other guys has to have those 20 games. Like like it seems like there are 3 guys on their team that could have a 20-point game, but like only one of them could any other night. The other 2 guys are going to go over. Like, but it seems like they can have that rotating cast of a guy that steps up to play the third fiddle every night.
I want to see Morez Johnson in there with Avicic and KJ at the same time. I was just telling Sonny, the Locked On Illini, guy the other night. I was like, why in the world do they keep playing Hummerkaus in this lineup? Um, I want to see Merez Johnson in there. Like I want to see Ivisic be able to play on the outside and Merez Johnson be that down low bruiser that's in there and then getting rebounds. And then on the defensive end, he's the one that's making all the plays down there. The rim protector for him. But Brad's just not gone to it. I don't know why he won't go to it as much. Sonny says he's saving it for something, but as far as I'm concerned, like
No.
put it out there now. Like what? I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that's like you need to save something for the end of the year, like a lineup or whatever. Put it out there. You don't know what that lineup's going to look like until you put it out there. But I mean, they also won this game by 6 points, so it's like not like you have anything to complain about. Uh-oh.
Brad
We're losing you, Burke.
Brad has a trait that most great college coaches have. Oh, I thought I was losing you. Am I okay?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
I got okay. Yeah, you're good too.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Brad Underwood has a trait that all great college coaches have, and that is they think they are the smartest man in the room. They do. I think that he is letting it ride with Ben Humrickhouse because in his head, Ben Humrickhouse is the piece that in his offseason planning, Ben Humrickhouse was the piece that he was like, oh, I'm going to surprise the Big Ten with this one. I'm going to put this kid in. He's going to shine. He is going to ride this out. It's Brad's way, man. He wants to be right. He's going to let Ben Humrickhouse like work through these pains.
I mean, if Ben Humrickhouse turns into the player that you think he's going to be, then I agree with him. Like if he turns into a consistent shooter and can rebound better for this team, then I agree with him. But this game against Wisconsin, he had 4 points, 1 of 5 shooting from the 3-point arc, 1 of 2 free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 4 fouls in 26 minutes of play. I I get what Brad is doing. Like I appreciate that he wants to stand with his guy and like move, like keep up with him. But like at a certain point, I just like at what point do you bench Humrickhouse and do you put Merez Johnson or somebody else like that instead? But yeah, like I totally agree with you, Philip. When he starts hitting threes, it's going to be lethal. It's just he hasn't been hitting them. 1 for 9 against Northwestern, 1 for 5 in this game. That's what 2 for 14 overall the past 2 games. Like it's not just
No,
he
and
starts hitting threes. Like he can't be chucking them up and missing 9, 8 in a game. He has to be more consistent, and more efficient than that.
Yeah, that's the battle that Brad's playing with himself right now. He is it worth like keep letting him ride out to figure it out because Big Ten plays here, so it's time to compete.
All right. Well, I mean, when you got Colin Boswell going 5 for 11, 7 for 7 from the free throw line, and you're winning the game, and KJ
more so,
absolutely
gotta shout out his defense. His defense,
yeah.
dude. Kylan Boswell stepping it up.
Yeah. I mean, that's what some people were complaining about to start the season. It's like, Colin Boswell's not there on the offensive end. It's like, well, he brings the defense. If he can add some offense to his game, it's going to be lethal. And that's what he did in this one against Wisconsin. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists for Boswell. He did have 3 fouls and 3 turnovers, but still, I mean, that's some crazy production you're getting from a guy that you're mostly just relying on his defense. But yeah, I'm more and more impressed with Kasparis Yakunis. I've been calling him KJ, but I think I did a pretty good job with the name there. He impresses me every single time, man. Every single time I watch him, I'm like, man, is he the best point guard in the Big Ten? Like, I know Braden Smith is really good, and I know that there's a couple other guys that have done a really good job, but like, I don't know. If I was starting a team with Big Ten players right now, KJ might be my first pick.
Dude, this sucks. This sucks. Like what's going on with Kasparis because I mean. Now, every single transfer that we don't know jack about that commits to Illinois, this is the evidence they'll point to. They have the evidence now. Like we'll just be like, we never heard of that dude. What is he? And they can always say, dude, he's Kasparis. He's the next Kasparis. Just wait. Like Kasparis has lived up to the billing and a billing that just like showed up because we had no idea this kid existed until he committed to Illinois. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. All right, let's go to the last game. I mean, if you want to talk about Washington, we can, but let's go to the last game here really fast. Rutgers and Penn State. So Penn State gets the huge win over Purdue, And then they go to Rutgers, and I wouldn't say it was an easy win for Rutgers. I mean, Penn State definitely challenged them, but this was a game where it felt like Rutgers was in charge the entire time and was kind of, doing the things they wanted to do for most of the game. I mean, Dylan Harper is amazing. Ace Bailey is obviously amazing. But what do you think of this game? Rutgers beating Penn State at home.
I thought that the stat line for the rebounds on Rutgers was insane. Think shoot, I thought I had it here. I think each of those freshmen had like 10, and then nobody else had more than like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm bringing up the stats right now. My computer's being kind of slow. I'm wondering if my internet is having issues. I'm sorry, guys.
No, but other than that,
so
like
Dylan Harper.
Speaking
Harper
of Penn State, you thought
Dylan Harper had 12 rebounds in this game, and Ace Bailey had 15 rebounds in this game. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and who was the next guy? Like the next guy had like 3.
Yeah, it was Ogilvy and Williams both tied with 3.
Oh my god, dude! These guys aren't supposed to be the board getters. Like these 2 freshmen.
Oh, sorry, Somerville had 4.
Like
Somerville had 4.
Okay, but still, man, it's like they have all this talent, but you need somebody to be getting those rebounds for those guys. Those guys shouldn't be getting those rebounds. I mean, it's great to see them light it up like that. They're putting in the effort. That is an effort stat. But man, that's not one that they should be responsible for. The rest of the team who isn't absolute bucket getters, they're the rebound guys. They should be getting the rebounds. And then like Ace Baldwin, a lot of the reason that Rutgers just felt in charge of this was Ace Baldwin's 3 for 14 from the floor. Like most nights, he is not going to do that. You are not going to be facing that Ace Baldwin. So even then, like that is a 4-point win in which they're the catalyst of everything that makes them go performs like that. You're catching the Penn State on the right night if you're getting that from him.
Yeah, I mean, like you can survive a 3 for 14 game from Ace Baldwin if he is also making life a living hell for the point guard on the other side of the ball. But that's not what it was for Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper was 8 for 14, 3 for 6 from behind the arc. Now he did only go 5 for 9 from the free throw line, so he left some points there. But overall, he has 24 points in this game, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, I mean, you can afford for Ace Baldwin to have a bit of a stinker. Offensive game if he's putting the other point guard in tough situations, but in this game he just wasn't doing that nearly as much. Not like he did against Braden Smith. I mean, he locked down Braden Smith, and we saw what Purdue is like when Braden Smith isn't on his best game. So, but overall, I mean, this was a game when it felt like Penn State just we did not see the Penn State that we saw against Purdue in this one. We saw it for stretches, we saw it for little parts of it, but overall we did not see the same Penn State that we saw against Purdue, which maybe it's just home court. I mean, the RAC obviously is a really tough place to play. Like, I think whoever wins the most games on the road this season in the Big Ten is probably going to win the Big Ten overall.
I think beating Purdue, like even though it is a different Purdue, it is Zach Edey-less Purdue. Like that took a lot out of them. Like I bet the come down after that hangover was real for everyone who got to celebrate that win with them. So I mean, you just gotta lick your wounds after heading to the RAC and say, hey, on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. We're going to take a quick break, everybody, and then we'll come back and we will talk about notable games going into the weekend. So stay with us. We'll be right back. CBB Analytics isn't just another stat site. It's your ultimate destination for in-depth college basketball analysis used by fans and even the coaches. It has comprehensive stats for men's and women's basketball across Division 1 through 3, dating all the way back to 2018. From shooting percentage to game recap, CBB Analytics has it all. Try CBB Analytics for free or pay for a tier to take your basketball knowledge to the next level. Back here on the Big Ten Huddle, hey, we appreciate it if you would hit the like button and subscribe. Definitely helps us out every time that you do that, whether you're on the football channel or the basketball channel. We're trying to grow the basketball channel, so there's a link for that in the description. If you don't mind just clicking that link and going over there and subscribing to that as well, we would really appreciate it. So, All right, Burke, we got some games going into the weekend. We kind of touched on Indiana and Nebraska there for a second. We can touch on that again if we want, but there's a number of other really good games this weekend. You got Texas A&M and Purdue. That's going to be a good one. You have Ohio State and Auburn. I believe that's being played in Georgia. It's a neutral site game. And then Wisconsin Butler, UCLA Arizona, Seton Hall Rutgers, that rivalry. Illinois Tennessee, that's going to be a huge game. Illinois going up against the number 1 team in the nation. And then Northwestern going to be going up against Georgia Tech. That'll be a sneaky little good game on Sunday, I believe. So you want to start with Indiana again, Burke?
Let's do it. Let's start with them.
Go ahead and give me your thoughts.
Like we said, this is make or break time. Like Mike Woodson gets to.
Go ahead.
Mike Woodson gets to show us if this year's different, man. Nebraska, like are these the numbers? The numbers I'm seeing here, these are the Ken Palm's score projections.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Ken Palm is I think he's pretty good at vibes, like also factoring vibes, and Indiana vibes in Nebraska are terrible. Hoiberg has owned Mike Woodson as of late. I want to say Kasai Tominaga has owned Mike Woodson as of late, but you got to give credit to Hoiberg. This is when we find out if Indiana just is going to fold. If we show up, I need Luke Goody to show up, man. Luke Goody has been such a catalyst in this team, such a huge factor of just getting energy going when there is just a baseline of nothing. Like, and it's so crazy. I don't know if I said it on this show. I said it on mine. It's kind of sad that the tone setter for our program right now has to be the Illinois transfer, the guy who has been in another program for 3 years. But it is nice to know he is a fan. Like, he is an Indiana fan. He's one of us. So I can always say, hey, you know what? The fans, it means more to the fans because look at it. Luke Goody, it means more to him than any of those guys. Look at it. I just need him to make that infectious. I really hope that it's infectious. But just a baseline. Yeah, he's going to play well against the Hoosiers, and every Indiana kid to ever play against the Hoosiers balls out against the Hoosiers. Connor Essegian will not be any different. I like our chances to limit what he can do, though. It's going to be tough, just because, Miles Rice, man, we need him to show up. We can do the rotating cast. If it isn't him, it's K9 Carlisle. But we need something from Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway cannot be a non-factor like he was in the last game. I mean, I would wish non-factor, but he was turning the ball over. Like, so it was a less than non-factor. Like, we need production from our captain, the guy who is supposed to be the bedrock of this program right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, like you see it out of Trey Galloway a little bit, right? He's come back from his injury and he's been very good at times, but you can't have a stinker game between both Trey Galloway and Miles Rice in this one. I do think Umar Ballo has come along much better, thankfully, for this team, and he's been a huge piece of that. And the field goal percentage, the effective field goal percentage for Indiana this season has been really good, but we've just not seen Indiana play well against the best teams on their schedule. And Nebraska is not one of the best teams on their schedule, but them being at home is always a very good sign for what they're able to do. And it was them that was able to basically take Kalkbrenner out of the game against Creighton, right? Now, Indiana has two bigs that they're going to have to take out of the game, not just Kalkbrenner. They're going to have to take Umar Ballo and Malik Renew both out of this one as well. But, I mean, that's going to be the key for it because Nebraska is able to take your bigs out of the game. And if they take them out of the game, then Indiana's going to have to find something in the backcourt, whether it's Carlisle, Galloway, Rice. So you have to have good backcourt play in this game if you want to win, which is a scary proposition for Mike Woodson.
Especially coming off of that Minnesota game where we did win as much as we did, but we gave up like 20% of our possessions, like just handed it over. It's not even like Minnesota's like, the scrappiest Penn State hands everywhere active. None of that. Like, we're just handing it to them for 20% of our possessions last game. Crazy.
Philip brings up a good idea here, and I thought this. Indiana should start Goody. He's a tone setter. I've thought this. I just don't know who he goes in for. Like, do you put him in over Carlisle? Do you put him in over I don't think you put him in over Rice because you don't have the ball handler for that. You definitely
Dude, I'll
can't put
tell
him in
you
over
what.
Mbako.
Speaking of Carlisle, you can't knock just having him come off the bench now with the way he did. Like, I know he might not want it, but if we give him just as many minutes as Miles, like we did in that last game, the way he came off the bench last game for that, I think 3 for 6 from deep. Like, if
Right.
we can have that off the bench, that's glorious, glorious to have that when we have any break from our starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the hard thing because this entire backcourt is inconsistent. If you can just get consistent play out of the entire backcourt, you can get them all kind of finding their role and playing that role the entire season. I think Trey Galloway can be a good passer for you. I think Miles Rice can be a good playmaker, kind of main ball handler for you if he plays consistently. And then Carlisle can shoot the three. So if you get that consistently for this team, it's going to be much better. But they have to do it consistently. So let's move on to Purdue and Texas A&M. Burke. Purdue, they kind of struggled against Maryland in that one, but they obviously were able to take things over. Braden Smith went on a big run there at the end of the game to score and kind of take over the game. Texas A&M has played some really good defense. They've done a really good job rebounding. I mean, it's been kind of the Texas A&M basketball you've come to know most of the season. But as far as I'm concerned, Purdue's going to have to rebound the ball in this one. Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 5. He's playing out of position this season with the injury to Daniel Jacobson, but I think we'll get to this more when we talk about the teams we believe in, but I think Purdue's going to struggle the rest of the season without a true 5 playing for them, and that could show up in this game against Texas A&M.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Penn State was able to score 32 points off of, I think, 24 turnovers against Purdue. Like, it's largely because like Penn State is averaging 17.8 turnovers forced a game. But Texas A&M is nothing to laugh at with their 14. Like as many points as Penn State is able to get with that as fast as they are, Texas A&M is going to slow it down. So those possessions are going to mean more.
Right.
Like even though they do have less turnovers than a Penn State team, I have to think they face less possessions just based on their speed. So like they have to be just as tenacious, and like you said, they're going to be physical on the boards. Purdue, man, it's real. It's here. Daniel Jacobson got injured. This is the result of not going out to. This is the result of just I'ma do it. Like,
I mean, this is a result of getting 6 freshmen and bringing them
yeah,
in and trying to get consistent contributions from those 6 guys. And when your development doesn't work out with Cam Heide and Miles Colvin, and I'm not saying they haven't developed, they just haven't developed enough for what you're expecting out of them. But as far as I'm concerned, like, you brought in Lance Jones last year, and he was a really good piece for you. If you would have brought in another 3, maybe a 5, you could be in a situation where Trey Kaufman-Renn wouldn't have to be playing the 5 as much. I mean, he is a major liability on defense, Trey Kaufman-Renn, but like I said, he's playing out of position. If he was guarding the 4, I think he could be much better. But when you have him down low against some of these bigger guys, like he's a liability on defense, and you have 0 rim protection. You put all of the pressure on your backcourt, and I know Braden Smith can handle a lot. Braden Smith's one of the best point guards in the nation, but at a certain point, like you're not going to be able to consistently win these games when you're putting that much pressure on Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer and Trey Kaufman-Renn on the offensive end at the same time too. Because if Trey Kaufman-Renn doesn't have a good offensive game, guess what? He can't make up for it on the defensive end because he's, like I said, playing out of position. He just doesn't have the size, and he doesn't have it on the defensive end to play the 5.
it is in Indianapolis, so this is a home game. Like it's at Gainbridge, so it's in downtown Indy.
Yeah, home-ish.
Yeah. So I do give the Boilermakers that.
But Mackey's Mackey,
hey,
right? Like
it's December, man. It's December.
Than a Gainbridge.
It's December. And Purdue can win any game in December because Painter as good as you can get a team ready. Painter will have his team ready, despite whoever's on it. Despite whoever isn't on it in this case. But yeah.
No, I agree. We can touch on it here for a second, but I'm not optimistic about it. Ohio State, Auburn. Aaron Bradshaw's back with the team with Ohio State, but he's not playing right now, so they're gonna have to figure out a way to play small ball again. It worked out for Devin Royal to play the 5 a little bit and Sean Stewart to be the primary 5. against Rutgers, but I I don't see it against Auburn. I think Auburn's going to be a team that's going to take care of that pretty easily, and this could be a game that Ohio State hangs for a little bit. But I mean, Bruce Thornton's really good, but he can only do so much.
Yeah. Bruce Thornton, I mean, coming off of a typically Bruce Thornton performance though. So if he can keep that rolling, I think he had 22 points, 8 for 13 from the floor last game. If he can keep that rolling, dude, it's just Auburn is going to be so athletic. They just had this Ja'Kai Howard kid. He was the one, he was the freshman involved in the plane incident. He just he had his coming out party last game. This dude is a freak. He is a freak. It's pretty crazy that Bruce Pearl even sat him for 2 games, I think. Yeah, Ja'Kai Howard for sure. Someone who just sprung onto the scene now, just found money for a team that was already their ceiling was the national championship. So it's going to be tough in Atlanta because, man, I still just am shaking from the year out from the whooping we got. Same circumstances. Atlanta against Auburn, man. It was jarring, crazy.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Auburn's just a really, really good team. I don't know what else to say.
Hey, how are you? So, where is the Ohio State fan base on the Diebler start now? It was roses. It was roses at one point. Where are we now?
I mean, I've always kind of questioned the hire. So for me, I'm not saying I'm out on it, but I look at what Felix Okpara is doing at Tennessee right now, and I'm like,
oh my God, we are going to talk about him. I had a note for you on him.
Yeah, I was like, really? We couldn't have kept that guy. We decided to go with, Aaron Bradshaw.
I have to wax poetic on Felix for a while.
We have to go with Aaron Bradshaw instead, which, don't get me wrong, Aaron Bradshaw's got some really good size, but I mean, you can tell the development that Felix Okpara is getting in his game. He came in super, super raw, but when you're able to get some development into that game and get him to understand basketball a little bit more and play at a high level and not be fouling so much, his
really game is built for that system too, and we'll talk about it. But he should have,
So I mean, Phillips right. Small ball might work with Auburn and how much they run, but even Ohio State doesn't have anybody that's going to match up with Johnny Broome. Sean Stewart's about the same size, but he does not have the athleticism at all that Johnny Broome has.
They run 3 runners, 3 athletes deep at every position. It's not like they have shooters. They don't have shooters. They don't have specialists. They just have athletes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they got 3 guys shooting over 40% right now on the season. That's the
thing. But those guys, freak athletes. They just are athletes who can shoot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They're not known as shooters because of how athletic and how crazy they are. But and Pettiford too. John brought him up. Pettiford. He doesn't even start for him, but he's a dog and he's shooting 43% right now on the season. So I not excited for Ohio State in this one. Wisconsin Butler, you got any thoughts on that one, Burke?
I think they're playing right before Purdue, same floor.
Thad Matta.
Yeah, one team's losing streak has to end. That's pretty much my only thought on it. They're both really promising starts to both these programs and just backsliding right now. Somebody's backslide has to end. It'll be exciting to see who.
Yeah. Steven Crowd just needs to be better in the paint.
Jeez.
He's not been it. It's not been it. UCLA, Arizona, a bit of a disappointment this season. UCLA got the big win at Oregon, game-winning shot by Dylan Andrews in that one. Any thoughts on that one, Burke?
Pac-12 Powerhouse Showdown, dude. This is exciting. This is exciting stuff. Sebastian Mack versus Caleb Love. It's going to be appointment TV. UCLA is looking good. I think it can continue against a 4-4 and floundering Arizona. I trust UCLA's defense to dictate this one. I do. Because just Arizona's bigs have just been crazy underwhelming.
Yeah.
And
I
want to say
they kept Umar Ballo.
Oh yeah, most certainly.
Yeah.
I really like UCLA in this game. That being said, get your wins, UCLA. Get them while you can because you got a long cold winter ahead of you. Like, I am so pumped for the social experiment that is going to be the first season of Big Ten basketball in the super conference era. Because yeah, like a single game here and there in Washington each season is a lot different than a road schedule through the Midwest. And yeah, I think it might be a little jarring. So get your wins, UCLA, because it's going to be rough.
Arizona's just so crazy to me. They are a team that when I look them up on CBB analytics, like they are all green. They do spectacular numbers all over the place. 44 points in the paint per game, 14 fast break points per game, 40% offensive rebound percentage, a 52% effective field goal percentage. They play with a 71 pace, which is in the 90th percentile in the country. I mean, they have all of these things. Offensive rebounds per game, 16 offensive rebounds. Like, they have all these really, really good stats. And then you look down, and the only spot where it's like bad red is 3-point shooting. They don't take very many 3-point shots per game, and they miss a lot of the 3-point shots that they're taking per game. So I agree.
They sound like a Trace Jackson Davis, Indiana team.
They do. You're correct there.
Sound awesome at everything but making shots.
It just doesn't work very well for them.
It's crazy how important that is in basketball, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, you would think you have to do that. So Rutgers, Seton Hall, Burke. I mean, Rutgers should win this one. Seton Hall's not very good.
I mean, Seton Hall is big bad. Like, they aren't like a bad Seton Hall. This is like bad.
Did their coach leave?
I don't know. I think they
No, they still have Holloway. But they lost.
I was going through their scores. What was their Wagner score? Their Wagner score looks crazy.
54-28.
That's a crazy score. What is that basketball? That's a football game.
That is a football game.
Jesus.
Did you see Kent tweeting about the Illinois-Wisconsin game?
No.
It was like 27-24 at the end of the first half, and Kent was like, oh, this is a really good football game going on right now. A lot of first half scoring, and this one ended the way it ended too. It was like no, it was Illinois Northwestern. It was that game, not Wisconsin. So, I mean, Rutgers should have no problem in this one. Seton Hall is not very good this year. Ken Palm is currently projecting them to only get 10 wins this season. Yikes. That's really bad. They're projected to beat DePaul by 1. DePaul's not good.
Seton Hall is?
Which I guess who?
Seton Hall is?
Yeah, Seton Hall.
CJ Gunn stepping it up for DePaul. CJ Gunn stepping it up
right?
for them.
Is it DePaul where Chris Holtman? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and then they're also, when they're away, they're projected to lose by 5. Yeah. Yikes. Not good. Illinois, Tennessee. I think Illinois got a really good shot of winning this game. I mean, Tennessee. Sorry, guys. I got a bit of a cough tonight. Tennessee, they're really good. Obviously, in a lot of different areas, you are the number 1 team in the nation for that. But, I mean, this is going to be a huge game between Illinois and Tennessee. Illinois, arguably the most talented team in the Big Ten. Brad Underwood, I mean, if he puts the right lineups out there, do we see the Merez Johnson, Ivisic lineup in this one? I think you could. If we see that lineup, I think this could be a really, really good game for Illinois, and there could be a good chance that Illinois wins this game. At home for Illinois as well, I believe. What's your thoughts, Burke?
I think this is a really good matchup. I'm really excited to watch it. As far as Illinois' chances, yeah, man, it's because of everything we talked about. Kasparis plus Ivisic plus any one of these dudes having a night where they just go off can spell victory for Illinois. Rick Barnes does his homework, though. So, like, if Tennessee is going to sacrifice somewhere defensively, I truly have a feeling that they are going to be like, hey, Ben Humrickhouse, beat us. Like, if Brad is going to play Ben as much as he has to let him shoot through this, Rick Barnes is going to see that, and he's going to be like, hey, that's the guy that's got to beat us tonight. But, like, on the defensive end for Illinois in their favor, like, not everyone can hold Chaz Lanier to 3 for 16 from the floor like the Indiana Hoosiers did in that scrimmage that they had with Tennessee. But Kylan Boswell defensively might be able to right now. So I like the ability. Like, Their defense and superstars. That's Tennessee. Their defense and superstars. If you can limit any one of those superstars, you have a far better chance of winning that game. I think that Illinois has a good one here. Felix Okpara, we got to talk about him, dude. We got to.
Yeah, he's really good.
Felix Okpara, dude, he is really good, and this system fits him perfectly because he isn't the most skillful in Rick Barnes' system. You don't have to be. You just have to bruise out and put out for him. You just have to put up the effort for him. And Felix Okpara has that, and he has the hops. He has the physicality. It's crazy.
I mean, it's been the offensive rebounding for Felix Okpara. It's been crazy what he's been able to do. He's also blocking just basically anything that comes near him as well. So, I mean,
well,
Illinois
he was always doing that, man. Like, even when he was in the Big Ten, he had the highest, I think, block percentage for like 2 years. Like,
the difference is he's not fouling now. Like, he would struggle with fouling on top of the blocks. Like, you could always trust he was going to get a number of blocks. But he was just immature in his play to where he was fouling guys a lot too. He's not fouling nearly as much in this one. I mean, he still fouls. Obviously, you're a big man, but it's not nearly as much as he did at Ohio State. So, but yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, they're going to have to find a way to get to the basket around Felix Okpara. But I mean, does Ivisic being in the game help with that? Taking him out by the 3-point line, if you have Ben Hummerkaus hitting shots in this one, it's going to be huge for you because he's not going to be able to be down in the paint if you have Ivisic and Ben Hummerkaus doing that. But like, that's the thing. You can't have 1 for 5 and 1 for 9 again from behind the 3-point arc. You have to get more production from him. That's my 2 big things in this game for Illinois. One, Ben Hummerkaus, if he's going to play, he has to be efficient in his play. And the other thing is, Illinois has got to cause some turnovers. They got to get some steals in this one. Like, that is the only weakness I feel like to this Illinois team. Their defense has been much improved. They did a much better job on defense this year. In fact, I think their defensive rating on KenPom is higher than their offensive rating. Yeah, their defensive rating is 16th. Their offensive rating is 28th for Illinois. Like, that's insane that Brad was able to bring in this many guys and have a better defensive team than he does offensive team. But they have to cause turnovers. In Tennessee, that has been a weakness for them this year. They have turned the ball over a little bit. It's not been anything terrible, but if you see teams kind of get back in games against Tennessee, that's kind of where it starts for them. So, and with Illinois, with Tennessee, how good they are on defense, you're not going to want to run very many half-court sets. You got to get the steals, you got to get out in transition, and you got to get the quick, easy buckets against Tennessee because buckets are not easy to get against this defense. So, all right. Northwestern, Georgia Tech, anything on that before we move on from this?
Only thoughts on this are Big Ten has a chance to just continue to show that we are good, man. I think the Big Ten is a good conference this year. I don't think that we have any great teams, but I think everybody is a good team.
It's the deepest conference, I think. You don't have any elite teams. Like, I don't think you have any teams that are going to win a national championship. Illinois is probably the best bet for that with how they play and the amount of talent they have, but they're just so young at the same time. So we'll see. But I mean, Northwestern, like, as much as people are kind of giving them crap in the offseason, like Brooke Barnheiser, Nick Martinelli, Ty Berry didn't have a very good game against Illinois, but he's been balling this season. Like, overall, like, Chris Collins, he was talking about at the end of the game, like, he is adjusting everything he's doing to these guys on his team. And obviously that's what you need to do as a coach, but I love how much you can see he's doing that this year because they're not running the same stuff they were last year with Boo Buie. I mean, so much of that team was dependent on Boo Buie. Yeah. And now this year you really see a collective effort from Ty Berry, from Brooks Barnheiser, Nick Martinelli, and Jalen Leach too. Jalen Leach has been huge for this team. He was huge in that game against Illinois, about part of getting them the win. Nick Martinelli was the one that kind of got all the credit. Deservedly so. I'm not saying he shouldn't have, but Jalen Leach played a really good game in that one too. Yeah, Philip. Northwestern's running booty ball. Booty ball is a good strategy.
It works.
Booty ball is a good strategy. I didn't realize Brooks Barnheiser was another Indiana native.
Oh, great. Can't wait till he just gouges us.
Can't wait till he comes to Assembly Hall and does a really good job.
God.
Oh, man. All right.
Yeah, we should. We need to do something about these kids leaving.
Right. Hit another commercial really fast, everybody, and then we'll come back, and we are going to give our teams that we believe in the most in the Big Ten this season. Stay with us. Home Field is your go-to destination for premium collegiate apparel with a passion for comfort and a flair for vintage design. Home Field brings you gear that is comfortable and stylish. With over 150 colleges to choose from, Home Field digs deep into the archives, uncovering forgotten logos, iconic mascots, and legendary moments to create one-of-a-kind apparel. Use my code TBTH for 15% off for new customers, or use my link in the description. Now, I did remember that one, John, but he's in the SEC, so I'm not as concerned about John L. Davis. But yes, I did remember he was from Indiana as well. Dusty May, too. Philip, John L. Davis is the missing piece for Michigan. This Michigan team would be really good if they had John L. Davis.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't get him. Was it academics?
I don't know. That's such an easy thing to point it to. Like, honestly, probably, but
there was some speculation that he had to like graduate and do like his 5th year or something like that.
Yeah, he needed like so many classes, and he was like, "Nah, I'm not." Yeah. Which I respect, dude. Guess what? He's earned the right to do whatever he wants with that year. So
yeah, Arkansas got their NIL going real good, so I don't blame him. All right, What teams do we believe the most in the Big Ten this season? So to me, this is one of the biggest storylines of the Big Ten this year. Is you have a lot of really good teams, but every team kind of has a flaw a little bit. So it's really hard to choose a team that you like actually believe in and say this is going to be the best team in the Big Ten this year. Maybe they don't win it because of some kind of crazy scheduling, but this is the team I believe the most in. You look at Purdue and the weaknesses they have. You look at Michigan State and some of the stuff that they got going on. Oregon loses that game to UCLA. You thought, maybe Oregon was the best team in the Big Ten here for a little bit. UCLA, they win that game, but they also lost to New Mexico earlier in the season. So I'm just going to have me and Burke go back and forth, and I'm going to let Burke say one, I'll say one, and we'll each say 3 teams that we believe the most in the Big Ten this year. And Burke, I would do my best not to copy you. That doesn't mean I don't believe in them too, but I'm going to do my best not to copy you. You go ahead first.
All right, then I'm going to pick the one that I know you won't have, Indiana. Like Indiana. Dude, I have to believe in them. They have to be on this list for me. I believe in this roster. I don't believe in Mike Woodson's ability to win 6 neutral site games in a row, which is what it would take to win the banner that every Hoosier fan is dying to get back to. But I will take the Big Ten. I don't need a banner this year. I just need this roster to compete like I believe it can, like this entire fan base believes it can, and that takes Mike Woodson. I think that the roster objectively has enough talent to win this thing. Just needs the right direction, and here's hoping that we can get it.
Yeah, I mean, when I look for a team to believe in, I have to believe they have talent, and I have to believe they have the coaching. I believe Indiana has the talent. I just don't know if they have the coach to utilize that talent the correct way. I think that Woodson has shown it at times before. He just hasn't shown it consistently. And the beginning of the season, especially with that battle for Atlantis, it didn't give me a whole lot of it didn't give me a whole lot of confidence in him. So I mean, maybe they get into conference play. Yeah, I mean, maybe they get into conference play and things look better. I might start believing in them, but for now, I don't really believe in them. The team I
can't blame you at all.
The team I do believe in the most right now is because of the talent, and it's because of the coach, because I think the coach is really, really good. He might be one of, if not the best coaches in the Big Ten. It's Illinois. When you have the possible player of the year at point guard for you, when you have one of the best big men in the Big Ten versatility-wise and ability, everything that he's able to do, when you have special defenders on your team that are able to make plays, when you have a defense that's this improved for Illinois, I really believe in this Illinois team. I think right now, if I was picking a team to win the conference, not even looking at the schedule because I haven't looked at their schedule yet, but I probably would pick Illinois to win the conference this year. They're the team I believe the most in.
If I had to take off my bias hat and put on my objective hat, Illinois was one of my 3. The ceiling was high if Kasparis Jakusionis was half as good as everyone was saying he is. He is every bit as good as everyone was saying he is. And then, if Trey White continues to build on just that last game, if Ben Humrickhouse or Will Riley, either of them can step into like the, this is our certified sniper role. Their ceiling's just going to go that much higher. They are a great choice here, and for sure we're one of my three.
Yeah. One of my other ones, so it's really hard because I believe in the coach of this one, and I'm not actually picking this team because I don't
Purdue.
think I believe in
You're
them.
saying Purdue.
Yeah, but I'm not picking them.
Yeah.
Because I think they have a coach. I just don't think they have the players. I think they have players who need more development to give them what they need to be a team for me to believe in them this year. And unfortunately, they went out and they got 6 freshmen, and they had their big man get hurt, and they didn't have another 5 behind him. Like Will Burke is unplayable. You can't play Will Burke with how much he's fouling, how inconsistent he is out there, and kind of oofy he is. Like you can't play him. And so when you have a guy playing out of position at the 5 who is just a complete liability on defense, like I can't pick you. So the team I actually am going to pick is Michigan State. I believe in Michigan State this season. I mean, Tom Izzo's kind of had his hard time as coaches and stuff, coaching and stuff like that. But Jackson Kohler has been huge for this team to be one of the guys in the front court to make that front court more consistent. They have some of the best guard play up and down their roster this season. Jeremy Fears Jr., Jace Richardson, Jaden Akins, who's the other guy? Cohen Carr. Like, you have a lot of really good guard play on this team that's doing a good job. So, like, I mean, excuse me. So I mean, when you have that good of a backcourt and you have a front court and Jackson Kohler that's playing as good as he is, and I think Frankie Fiddler's just going to keep getting better as the year goes on. So I'll stamp it. I believe in Michigan State this season.
Dude, I think they're peaking at the inverse of time that any Michigan State team has ever peaked. I don't know if that's good for them. Like, what Michigan State team has started this hot compared to where their expectations have been? Michigan State warms up. They warm up to a sprint at the end of the season. So this is a promising start for them. But I mean, where do they get better from here? Can the front court find some more than they've got? Only time will tell, because the rest of this Big Ten, I think that the development will show like some of these teams are going to be far better than they are at the end.
Yeah, I just need to see Michigan State get that big win. Right? I just need to see them get that big win that really solidifies them as being that big team. North Carolina was a good win for them, but I just don't think North Carolina is as good.
I don't think it's. I think by season's end that might be it's not going to be a great win.
You don't think it's going to be a 1 win?
Dude, North Carolina is like bad. Like, they're not just not good. They're like actively bad this year. It's crazy. But Purdue, I chose them, man. I did. I chose him. I said, just because Painter, man. The fact that, like, he usually finds a way to retool and reload. This is the toughest retool reload job he's put himself in. But I mean, he's done it. He's done it every time that I've doubted him to do it. So the one thing is that Jacobson injury, man, like you said, they're one injury away from just being like, we can't field a team today. Like, we just don't have the team. Like, what rotation are they going to have if there is one other guy, like key top 5 minute getter, that goes down? It's crazy. When I think of like the all Big Teners, those are when I think of what teams are the best, I think of all Big Teners, like who's going to have the highest population of them, and I could see Purdue getting two of them up there. I could.
Yeah, I think Purdue needs some help other than their top 3 guys, which I know Purdue fans are going to watch this, and they're going to be crazy in the comments. They're going to say, oh, no, we got this guy. We got this. Look at our Alabama win. It's like, okay, you also won at Mackey. Like, you win all your games at Mackey because Mackey is one of the best home court advantages out there. So congratulations. But, like, we saw what happened when a team pressed the backcourt like they did with Penn State. Like, Braden Smith just doesn't have enough help out there. So,
what I was thinking was like, it's a dire situation with that front court for him. Like, I genuinely was like, would Purdue be in a better position if they had taken Peyton Sparks on their roster this year? And I'm almost like, maybe, which is crazy.
It would have been a body for him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at this point, that's where their front court is. Their front court needs bodies.
Yeah.
When has Purdue ever that's been the case?
Yeah. Philip's right. Purdue's extremely flawed. No more defensive eraser with Edey. I don't know if I'd say extremely flawed, but the front court is extremely flawed when you don't have the defensive eraser with Edey. But they still have the
Yeah,
big three, so
you still
that
got
big three
like
can take them places.
you
They
still
just have
got
to
the
find
best setup
consistent
man
play
in the
front
Big Ten. Like,
Yeah.
so
John says, "Oh my gosh, not Peyton Sparks."
dude, I'm telling you, he would get time on this Purdue team. He would. He would.
He would. All right. Let's see. I have one more. I have a dilemma because I think it's one of the West Coast teams. I think it's either UCLA or Oregon.
Oh,
I
I'm
can't
glad
pick
you brought him up.
Maryland. Yeah, I can't pick Maryland because of Willard. I just don't believe in Willard enough. I don't know if Philip said anything about it, but I'm sure he already said something about it. But yeah. So for me, it's either UCLA or Oregon. UCLA did win the head-to-head at Oregon, so I feel like I need to go with them. But I don't know, like Dana Altman, I just feel like he's making some really good decisions with what he's doing. And Nate Biddle is quietly playing like one of the best players in the Big Ten right now. Like if Shellstad starts being consistent throughout the entire game, that's kind of what has been their issue. Is Shellstad kind of shows up for a little bit of the game and then kind of drops off and then shows up again. Like if Shellstad can start playing really well for the majority of the game, I think they can be it. But I have to see it consistently. But I'm still gonna go with Oregon. I still believe in this team. I think that they're gonna do a really good job. I think their record might not look as good as they might actually be because of some of the traveling over to the East Coast and stuff like that. That's gonna be hard for them. But I mean, if they can steal some games on the road, whether it's at UCLA or I think they play at Nebraska this year. I need to look up and see where they play at. But if they can steal some road games too, this Oregon team very well could contend for the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, they have the talent, they have the coaching, they have every bit to. But man, that West Coast hurdle, I might be building it too much in my own head, but I truly believe, like, yeah, it was one thing for football. You saw football, the effect it had on those guys. Like, what was the Big Ten record when traveling 3 time zones? Terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
But so like you saw it on football, like basketball, you're traveling twice as often. You're going like they are going to be flying into Champaign, driving to Evanston, and then flying back home. Like I'm sorry, anybody who's listening to this that is a fan of those West Coast teams, I went to work today. It was 7 degrees outside. There are 5 Big Ten schools located north of me. Like it's different. And that's just I just think that's going to be too big of a mountain for any of them to climb on the first year. Maybe when they figure out the travel, when they figure out what the best system for all these teams to play fairly is, they will have an equal shot at this Big Ten championship, or the title. But I just think as things are, the geography alone just keeps any of those teams out of the top 3 for me.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all if we see Oregon sneak in with like a 4 seed or something like that in the Big Ten tournament, and then they go on and they win the entire Big Ten tournament because maybe they have some tough road losses. And I was wrong about at Nebraska. It's at Iowa is where they go there. That could be a win for them on the road to help them out quite a bit. They also go on the road to Wisconsin and on the road to Michigan and Michigan State. So I mean, if you split that Michigan State and Michigan, if you win one of those, that's looking real dangerous for Oregon this year. So, so yeah. All right. Anything else you want to bring up with teams you believe in, Burke, before we get out of here?
Nope. I'm going to believe in the Hoosiers until the day I die, until the day they kill me, man. I swear to God.
Let's hope it's not this year.
Oh, no. This year's all found money with just our football program, man. It's crazy.
Football school.
Hey, congrats, by the way. Few perennial powerhouses like us, 100% 12-team playoff success rate for our programs.
Yeah.
Perennial 12-team playoff participant Indiana football. So
I hope they make the playoffs again next year. That would be really cool if they were able to do that again. I don't know if it'll happen, but
no, I'm just looking forward to Odom being compared to Cignetti all next year. I'm sure that's going to be so much fun for him.
I mean, he's a good coach. He comes in from
Hey,
UNLV. They did a good job, but
but
we'll see.
that is not a comp you want to go up against in your first year.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
he just is destined to, just because of Indiana Purdue.
Yeah, no, for sure. Burke, why don't you tell everybody where they can find Often Daunted at?
Yeah, you can find Often Daunted on YouTube, across all podcast audio platforms, wherever you get your favorites. You can find me across all social, except for TikTok, at Often Daunted. Often Daunted is a play on the Never Daunted. Never Daunted became the football tag because it's from our fight song. I made the show 2 years before Sig got here, 3 years ago now. And it was just a play on the fight song, Often Daunted. So yeah, go ahead and give me a follow. I can't thank you enough for having me on. JR, my own name. JR, awesome. Thank you so much, man. It's always a blast.
No problem. Thank you so much to everybody who came in and listened. We appreciate it. We'll be back again next Thursday night, talking all things Big Ten basketball. So we'll see. Might get a Purdue guy on. We haven't had a Purdue guy on in a while, so we'll go from Indiana to Purdue, and I'm sure Kent will make his appearance as well. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Monday mornings at 10 a.m. Come for the Power Rankings episode. Me and Kent power ranking all the teams, and it's always a good time talking through it, and we interact with the chat a ton. So thanks so much for coming, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a good one.